If you're having trouble of getting more clients over the line, basically more clients, closing more clients in your sales calls, or you are already running a successful business, a successful sales teams, and you just want to amplify what everybody else is doing, then this video is exactly for you. In this video, I'm going to go over on how we use AI tools in a very simple yet not easy way to actually get more out of our sales team, more out of our clients that are selling. And I'm also using this for my own sales purposes. So let's dive straight in. So let me first take a step back and actually give you my thoughts on AI in general, right? Especially those language models. I think they are excellent thinking machines, right? The main problem is that most people, for example, type in prompts like, hey, can you write me a script or something like that? And I actually don't think that AI, if you don't give it the right inputs and the right parameters first, can actually create something useful. That being said, I think it's an excellent data analysis tool. So you can actually feed a lot of data into it and get, the right things out of that. So the main way we use AI to increase sales is by analyzing sales calls in bulk fashion, right? So normally you would actually have to watch every sales call of your salesperson or of your sales team or your own and kind of go through, hey, where did this go wrong? What could I do better? What objection did I not handle? But instead, what we do is we use a tool called Fireflies.ai, and this is not sponsored, this is just a tool. You can use anything. There's other tools like Fathom or other tools like transcribing tools that are very high end, that very capture, like 98, 99% of what you're saying. And then actually we analyze those transcripts and we can ask the large language model then, hey, what do you think I could do better in this sales call? What are a couple objections that come up in every sales call so that your sales team can actually prepare for those objections, right? So you can actually preemptively train on those objections to then being able to handle them in the call itself. You could technically even ask ChatGPT or any other large language model, what response would you give for a person to handle those objections, right? And what we also recently did is we asked the language model to be a sales trainer, analyze the call from a critical perspective, and then give basically personalized feedback for every salesperson, what they are good at, right? So you can actually highlight their strengths, give them a positive feedback, and then also what they could improve on and where they get stuck most of the time in that call, right? And then print a custom report based on every salesperson or based on yourself on the things that you should work on, right? I think that's excellent because that gives kind of objective feedback, right? This cannot be disputed as it's just a computer analyzing your calls, and it doesn't have that human critique factor, because a lot of people, once you critique their sales skills or once you tell them, hey, this is what you could do better, then they get personal, they get defensive and stuff like that. So basically transcribe your sales calls with a note taker automatically. You don't even have to do anything, and then feed the data in. Then you can prepare the objections. You can analyze yourself from a neutral third person perspective, with a person being a language model that has a lot of data. And there's also now tools coming out where you can actually analyze videos itself, right? And this is going to be very useful when you analyze for, mimics, when you analyze for, when did the expression of the prospect actually change? What did I say to actually make them, feel bad or something like that? And a lot of times you can also analyze things like talk time, the mood of the conversation, right? Like all of these note takers actually have AIs most of the time integrated into that does that automatically, but you can technically play around with all of that. So that gives you a massive amount of insights, and it gives you data with also statistical relevancy, right? So if you feed in 100 sales calls, that's going to be super relevant statistically for you to analyze data from. And what we then normally do is we tell the salesperson or myself to fix one thing after the other. Like we use the transcript, we analyze it, we even use ideas from the large language model or from ChatGPT to actually fix these problems, and then we fix them one by one, and that normally massively increases the sales rate. Now the second part is super important as well. If you analyze those conversations, you have statistical data of things that you can do actually prior to the call to pre-handle objections. So what we normally do is we have our clients, and we do that ourselves, create content based on the objections and the questions that people ask in that call, because you can, like I said, analyze them with statistical relevancy, and then you take the most frequently asked questions and the most frequently asked objections, and you create content against that, right? So that's going to be emails, that's going to be video, that can be audio as well, right? So you can actually then pre-handle those objections, and then we use something called the Hammer Them strategy. Shout out to Jeremy Haynes for this. And then we actually pre-frame the prospect with the content, with the emails, to actually handle those objections prior to the call. Now, what is going to happen if you do that? So if you do that correctly, the prospect is actually going to have new objections for you that takes you most of the time closer to the real objections, right? Normally in sales, you always have a kind of like a smoke screen, something that the person throws out, like I need to think about it. And there is a real objection behind it. So you kind of dig your way, maybe even you handle the real objection straight away with what they asked in the call, or you dig your way closer to the real objections. Now you want to do that for a couple of loops, right? Like you want to analyze 100 sales calls or 50 sales calls, depending on how much volume you have, right? Then you want to make those emails, make that content, make that pre-framing possible, or you could even like have a phone call. The salesperson call them prior to the call, actually telling them about these kind of like, pre-handled objections. And then you want to do that a couple of times, because every time you do that, you get a layer deeper into the prospect's mind, and a layer deeper because you focus on the statistical relevant data that most prospects actually asked. Now, if you want a pro tip on this, look at the sales calls that actually closed, right? Like, don't just use the ones that are not closing, use the ones that are closing, because those are going to be your perfect clients most of the time. Or maybe those that closed on the third or fourth call, right? Because those are the people where you really want to focus on. Sometimes if you don't have a good qualification process, you're going to get some garbage prospect, and their opinion is actually not going to matter. But you want to focus in on those people where you really had a chance to get them, and maybe you got them later, or you maybe for whatever reason didn't get them, right? So this is going to be right the sweet spot where you want to place your analysis and where you want to get data from. So in my opinion, these are the two best ways to using AI to get more sales. The problem is, I think a lot of people think of AI of being too fancy. They think, every chatbot, every AI voice agent is already there so that they can just sell your prospect. And I think that's actually, major contradictory opinion that this is actually absolutely not true. I think most AI services right now are just on the cusp of sounding human. It's absolutely not there where they could actually replace a human in a human-to-human sales conversation, right? And people want to buy from people, not from machines. So I think you should actually not shortcut the sales process. You just use AI to amplify your sales process. And the best thing you can do from analyzing these sales processes is actually creating sales assets. And I've made a video about this in the past. I'm going to link it here, so feel free to watch that.